Entering the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Colonial, well, the Charles Schwab Challenge Picks research. If you have not used code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy yet, and you're watching this show, give your head a shakes. Pal, support the show. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy. You get a match deposit potentially of up to $250. It's pretty high, so you might as well take advantage of that bonus right now. Additionally, my walkthrough today is powered by FantasyNational.com. If you go to FantasyNational.com/Mayo, you get 20% off all membership levels. You'll see all of the tools that I'm using to do my research. Plus, you'll get the ownership projections, the simulator, the live data, and access to the best leaderboard app for Android and iPhone there is in the game. And you can only get it by being a member at FantasyNational.com/Mayo. All right, go do that right now. I am so excited for Colonial this time around because they've ruined Heritage for me. Heritage is supposed to be a venue the week after the Masters where you get a few of the bigger names, but the next tier down of players, all skill sets can win. And they decide to make it an elevated event and have all the best players there. Herbertown doesn't need that. Herbertown is a fantastic course. Colonial, on the other hand, is the longest running single venue on the PGA Tour. It is a classical course. They've played it every year since 1946. And it's not an elevated event. We're getting some big names at this event, most of the Texas guys, but overall this field is very strong, full of the types of players that we like to see. It's bigger than it normally is. It's usually an invitational with 120 players in the field, but this time around it's going to be 136. They're having issues squeezing in a lot of the Korn Ferry grads, the guys playing off points from last year to get their number of starts in because of the designated events and so many majors going on and on and on throughout the year. They've had to expand the field of some of these other tournaments. I'm just glad that we're getting a full a full cut event at a course that I really love. Almost any skill set can win here, and we take a look through the history and we do the course preview. We're going to notice that a lot of older players tend to win here, and it's all irons and putting. You hit your irons well, you make a ton of putts, you're probably going to win at Colonial. So let's get to the course itself. Located just west of Dallas in Fort Worth, Colonial CC, as mentioned, has been played on the PGA Tour every year since 1946. It is a shade over 7,200 yards, almost 7,300 yards on the scorecard this year. A par 70, only 2 par 5s, bent grass, 6 holes with water, 84 bunkers around the property, and an average green size of 5,000 square feet, which puts it on the tiny side of your average PGA Tour green. There are 4 par 3s, the average distance 210 yards. These are the 4 most parred holes on the course, with the 2 on the front 9 having a higher bogey than birdie rate. 2024 winner Emiliano Grillo made par on just 7 of the 16 par 3s he played last season. 1 double, 3 bogeys, and 5 birdies, which is kind of crazy to think about. Par 4s, there's 12 of them, the average distance 436 yards. 3 of the most difficult par 4s on the course all come on the front 9, with hole number 5 and hole number 9 having a double or worse rate higher than 4.5%. Grillo took a penalty, as we remember, on the 72nd hole last year and double bogey before winning in the playoff. He was -1 on 18 prior to that. If you don't remember, he hit it into that, it's not even a creek, it's like a man-made waterway, and his ball just kept rolling back down and floating back down until they finally had to stop it. And he ended up hitting it, I believe he hit it off the cart path to try to get it up and down, but he was able to do that when it came down to beat Adam Schenk in the playoff. The 2 par 5s, 610 yards on easiest. 2 of the easiest 3 holes on the course, with number 1 owning an eagle rate of 2.4%, a 6% bogey rate though, the only single digit under par rate on the course. And as Grillo, as good as he was last year, he played the par 5s even through the first 2 rounds and -3 on the weekend. We take a look at the scorecard overall. You're going to notice that you're going to want to play your showdown guys starting on hole number 10, going into the middle, because you just get to leverage number 1 over and over. Flyover, the two easiest holes on the property, and hole number 18. They play under par, 19.5% under par. If you play the course in order, you'll have to deal with hole number 9, which is the second most difficult hole on the course and the one that carries the highest double or worse rate at over 5%. So you want to be starting on the back 9 for showdown purposes if that's the way that you're going to want to roll into it. Just a few more notes that, hey, you can kind of slice up. You can basically slice up scorecards any way that you want, but the horrible horseshoe, holes 3, 4, and 5. I got some numbers for you about the horrible horseshoe. Plus 0.5 strokes over par is the average that it is playing since 2003, the toughest 3 to 5 hole stretch of any non-major venue that's been played at least 8 times. Good for you, PGA Tour, trying to really work that one in. 5 players since 1983 have a cumulative career score to par on the horrible horseshoe of 2 under or better in a minimum of 4 rounds. 5 players since 1983. 6 players have shot 7 under or better after playing the horrible horseshoe over par during that same round. What else do we have here? 16.8%. So 835 individual players have played at least one round at Colonial. 155 players are without a birdie or better in their careers over these 3 holes, 18.6%. 15 players or better are without a bogey or worse in their career. That's under 2% of players that have played at least one round at Colonial. Of the 8 of the last 11 seasons have seen the horrible horseshoe played at least a combined half stroke over par, plus 0.616 was the toughest it played. That was in 2014. 73%. And so there's just more course notes here. 73.4% of greens hit from inside 125 yards. So from 125 yards and in, only 73% of players hit the green. That's the second toughest greens to hit from that distance on the PGA Tour, Riviera being the most difficult of that bunch. 33 feet, 4 inches is the average proximity inside 100 yards. It's the third longest of any course on tour last season, and 55.8% of players are successfully able to get out of greenside bunkers, the fourth easiest of any course on the PGA Tour. Just don't ask Jason Kokrak. He ended up outlasting Spieth, but his bunker play was atrocious. And putting from 15 to 25 feet is the most difficult, the second most difficult on tour, at least it has been over the past 5 years. So those are some of the course notes that we're looking at this time around. And as you can see on the fly-through right now, you don't really need to crush the ball at all. Players who hit the ball pretty minimally do really well. It's more of an accuracy course, and it's sort of a part of what I like to call the Russell Henley swing, that Colonial is like Harbortown or Sawgrass or Sedgefield or Eastlake. Distance can help if you're hitting it straight, but you don't need to. You don't want to get yourself in the trees. I remember when this is the first course they played coming out of COVID, Bryson tried to take on over the trees with a lot of stuff. You just don't need to. Just hit it down the fairway, hit your wedges well, make some putts. That's the path to winning this tournament. Looking at the past leaderboards, the top 5 finishers almost exclusively share the trait of gaining a little off the tee, slightly less around the greens, and a whole lot on approach and putting. You'd think with below average size greens that chipping would be a major factor. It just hasn't materialized at the top of the leaderboard. Well, if you've well-timed up and downs, they're going to be critical, obviously. You can't chip yourself out of a tournament. That's not going to help you win. But a great week from off the greens mean you're just not hitting enough greens in regulation. Pin stock with short irons, make your putts, eat your pars on the long par 3s, hoist a novelty track, be on your way. That's how we're playing Colonial this week. Few more notes about the scorecard. As you can see, holes 1 and 2 are the 2 easiest holes on the course. As I mentioned, hole 18 being the 13th most difficult, so one of the 5 most easiest. Number 17 and 18 both have birdie rates of 19%, whereas 1 and 2, 44% and 26%. Again, that's why you want to start on the back 9, going through everything. And this is what I pointed out a little bit earlier. For the top 10 finishers, you can see a little bit off the tee, lots on approach, a little bit around the green, lots in putting. Now let's factor that into the top 5 finishers and see how that looks. Again, fantasynational.com/Mayo in order to get full access to all of this. It's even more pronounced amongst the top 5 finishers. They do gain slightly more off the tee and slightly less around the greens, and I bet you with the winners, you're just going to see a whole lot of putting would be up there. Oh yeah, approach, putting. 1.3 strokes gained per round on approach, 1.25 strokes gained putting per round. let's just throw this out here now. Tom Hoge has to win this event. This is the ultimate Tom Hoge course. It doesn't matter what you do around the greens. Just don't chip yourself out of a tournament. Gain a little bit off the tee, approach and putting. That's his entire game. We've been building towards the Hoge win all season long. Currently, Scotty Scheffler's in the field. I don't know if he's going to end up in the field by the time they actually play, but I still like Hoge to win this one. The time is coming for Hoge. He's the right age for it. He's won at Pebble Beach, another shorter course. I just want to get that out there now in case people don't want to wait around until the end. Even distribution between the par 3, par 4, and par 5. You can see the average shot distribution is, I mean, the biggest bucket is 25%, 150 to 175, 125 to 150, so not along long irons. However, when we dig in a little bit deeper in terms of what we've seen statistically over time, the long irons actually do play a significant role at this tournament. Historic cut line, +2, +2, +2 each of the past 3 years. When you had the super field in 2020, it was -1, and then it was +3, +3, +5. Early weather reports are looking like it's going to be super windy, but we're still 5 days out from me recording this and the tournament actually teeing off. The wind finder that I'm using, in case you want to know, is called Benbrook. It is on windfinder.com. Just type in Google wind finder, Benbrook, and that will show you what's going on. Right now we're looking at Thursday with rain and gusts up to 25. Friday, no rain, but gusts up to 25 again. Saturday, no rain, gusts up to 22, and then gusts up to 40 on Sunday, which would be somewhat reminiscent of what we saw 2 years ago when Sam Burns ended up beating Scheffler in a playoff, and he started from way back, posted super early, then all the leaders just started falling back because the course played incredibly difficult. So keep that in mind. Average driving distance way down compared to your average tour event. Here, green regulation proximity to hole is much shorter, except for if you're trying to do it from inside 125 yards, which just seems antithetical to what you would want to what you would think a tournament would play. It just doesn't end up playing that way, which is kind of hilarious. Taking a look at the history of this course, and we can go back over the past 5 years. We'll sort by 2023. You can see Emiliano Grillo won in a playoff over Adam Schenk. Harry Hall was just untouchable that week on the greens, if I recall. For a guy who sucks at putting, he was just doing everything in his ability to make putts. Now I need to go effort this just in case I'm wrong, but that's what I remember. Oh yeah, lost strokes on approach, gained almost 8 strokes putting, and just marginally chipping and putting for old Harry O from Britain. But probably not going to do that again. Oh, Eckroat was up there as well. So the field this year is actually quite good, but here's some things that I noticed. So your past 5 winners are Emiliano Grillo at 8 under, Sam Burns at 9 under, but he is not going to play this season. Jason Kokrak obviously went to live. He beat Spieth by 1 at -14. And we're starting to see a little bit of a trend here. Daniel Berger won the Superfield event coming out of COVID. He beat Morikawa and Xander in a playoff, I think. I think that's what it was, or Xander lipped out a 3-foot putt to miss the playoff. Totally space on what it is now. But this is the ultimate Morikawa course, which is kind of funny, and he is playing this time around, or at least Morikawa, how he was previously constituted to hitting his irons really well. But Berger won at -15 that week, and then the year before that, Kevin Na hit that one at 80-1. That was a fun one. Beating Tony Finau coming down the stretch. I think he ended up winning by 4 at -13. He just made every single putt on Sunday. It's so awesome when the guy that you bet on actually is the one who's just going nuclear and not the other way around, which normally does happen. But here's something funny about looking at some of these winners. So Grillo came in gaining strokes putting in 5 of his previous 6 starts before winning a year ago. Sam Burns gained over 4 strokes putting in 3 of his 4 measured events before winning at this event. Jason Kokrak in 2021. Both guys played really well at Valspar, by the way. And you see Adam Schenk ended up losing in a playoff here last year. He also came second at Valspar this year. No, not this year, the year before. I think he was top 15 at Valspar this time around. So some little bit of crossover, usually because of strength of field, mainly, but I just thought that was somewhat interesting to see those guys. So Kokrak gained strokes putting in each of his 3 events and 5 of 6 events, including a run that was the 4th best putting week of his career. Daniel Berger, obviously this one got interrupted by COVID, but he had gained strokes putting in each of his previous 3 events before this event. And then in 2019, Kevin Na gained strokes in each of his previous 3 events prior to winning. How Grillo got it done in 2013. We saw that he took that drop in the playoff as his ball was floating down the river and ended up beating Adam Schenk in the playoff. I did not cash that, but I know a lot of people in the community did go cash that one. So congrats to them. I think I was on Burns or Ricky Fowler, one of the two. Either way, not a winner. I'm glad. If I can't win, I always want to see other people I know win. A 65 on Friday was his best round of the week and the best on the course on Friday, and it kept him in the picture. He was 4 back of Harry Hall entering the weekend, and he was the second best putter of the week. You can see 7.4 strokes gained putting wise, only behind Harry Hall, but you can see 4.7 on approach. Lost a little off the tee, lost a little around the greens. Great on approach. Great putting. And you kind of see that, again, even Adam Schenk, who came in second. He gained a little bit off the tee, gained a little bit around the green, gained almost 4 on approach, 5 putting. That is the path of what you want to do. Don't do the Scotty. I mean, you can gain 15 strokes tee to green like Scotty did. He just happened to lose almost 5 on the greens. This will turn into a putting contest at some point, and it's going to be incredibly difficult to win without doing that. If you're going to be breaking even around the on the greens, unless you're chipping in a whole bunch, you're probably just not going to have that much of a chance to win. So in the wind-affected year, in 2022, where Sam Burns won, beating Todd and Scheffler, Finau, Stallings, Davis, Riley, Mito, Pereira, back when all these luminaries were on the PGA Tour, we can take a look at how they did it as well. Scheffler, again, he gained 0.6 strokes putting. That's how you end up losing in a playoff. You just don't gain enough. Now, he's been a much better putter as of late, but Burns gains 5, gains almost 3 off the tee, 4 on approach, little around the greens, boom, spikes the putting week. And Finau was kind of traditional across the board. In a more wind-affected one, you do see more of the tee to green overall come into play more so than putting and approach, but that was more of an outlier year with how the scoring ended up going. It was a lot easier the first 3 rounds than it was in the final round, so I don't know if that's going to affect anything this time, but Burns improved each of the days, 71, 68, 67, 65, gaining 7 strokes on Scheffler on Sunday to force that playoff. 9 of the top 11 finishers gained in proximity from 175 to 200 yards. The 2 exceptions were amongst the 5 best from beyond 200 yards, which I thought was interesting. Like, hey, it's a really short course. Why would we care about that? Well, if we take a look at 2021, when Kokrak won, of the top 11 in proximity from beyond 200 yards, 7 of them finished inside the top 20. Isn't that kind of crazy? In 2019, when Kevin Na won, the top 4 finishers all gained on the field in proximity from 175 to 200 and 200 plus yards. So longer irons playing more. Maybe that's because the shorter irons are so much more difficult at this course. It's the longer irons that you really need to go to. I did not suspect that would come up. That was not something that usually I try to do a few notes before we actually come on and try to dig some of that stuff up. But I just thought that was really interesting to go back and look at. And I mean, we can try to dig in to figure out why that is happening. If we take a look here as well, you can see that Spieth has played really well outside of last year. Another guy who has done well at Valspar. He finished 3rd to Schenk and Taylor Moore. Is Taylor Moore playing this event? He is playing this event. He's been cut 2 years. Don't care. Probably betting him. Best players at this tournament over the past 5 years in terms of strokes gained total: Spieth, Finau, Morikawa, Hauser-Berger, Scheffler, Rose, Griot, Homa, Victor Hovland, Brian Herman, Andrew Putnam, Brennan Todd, The Glove. Should be a good Glover course. I just don't know if he putts enough to be able to do it. Either way, you can see this tournament actually has names in it, which is very surprising considering it probably means that Canada next week is just going to be devoid of any names. Probably why Sam Burns isn't playing this, because he's an RBC guy. So we'll get Burns, Rory, Theegala, Lowry. A lot of the Euros play the Canadian Open. I don't know if Scheffler's allowed to leave the country anymore because he has a felony charge against him, so he's probably not going to be playing in Canada. But then if there's a signature event, then the US Open, then another signature event. So Canada or this one is the likely skip spot, but it doesn't seem like that many guys are actually skipping this. The field is incredibly good, as I mentioned before. So Scotty's playing. I don't know if he's going to end up sticking in the field just with everything that's going on. I think he's being arraigned on Tuesday. I'm guessing that they dropped the charges against him, but that's me. I'm wrong on a lot of things. I mean, anyone who follows this show knows how wrong I can be about a lot of things. That maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't think that I am, but if he wins the PGA Championship, he doesn't like not playing in the Texas events, so he might feel a commitment to go do that. Scheffler, Who do we got here? Just in terms of strokes gained total over the past 24 rounds, I can read you some names here. Scotty, Bhatia, Siwoo, Horschel, Denny, McNeely, Ben Griffin. All right, here were some actual good names here. Taylor Moore, Aaron Rye, Harris English, Jaeger, Kirk. Kirk has won here before. Hoagie and Morikawa. Bet Hoagie. Any number. Novak, Straka, Shank, Davis Thompson. Adam Scott is playing in the field this week. Hovland is playing in the field this week. CT Pan, Perka Cutie. Sungjae trying to get his life back together. Minwoo Lee, Wacky Valimaki, Tony Finau. Finau should have won the Kevin Na year. He just couldn't make the putts coming down the stretch, which is not new to Tony Finau, not making putts coming down the stretch, but it's a spot where he's played pretty well in the past. Eckroat is in the field as well. He's played well here in the past. Goddard coming off, I guess he wouldn't be coming off a win at this point, coming off a missed cut at the PGA Championship, but winning in Myrtle Beach. List and Spieth, Higo, Bobby Mack having a good PGA Championship so far. Grayson Murray, Carson Young. So Keegan Bradley is playing in this field. Hopefully he wins the PGA Championship, starting the weekend back very, very far. Don't care. Still hope he wins. Nikolai Højgaard, Cam Davis, Thorbjorn Olesen, real names are in the field this week, as is defending champ Emiliano Grillo. So lots of really good players. This might be a really nice week to bet Siwoo Kim, because he ends up missing the cut. It's the reason that I'm going to beat Tambo in our head-to-head, because I took a very anti-Siwoo stance this week, because he'd been Mr. Consistent, but you just don't pick a guy who loses that many strokes putting. And by the metrics that I just talked about, you would not want any part of Siwoo, because he can't putt whatsoever. And I doubt he's probably putted well at all in his life at this course. No, of course he hasn't. He's made 2 cuts in 6 starts, but this is a part of the Siwoo Slam. He's got Sony. He's got Wyndham. He doesn't have Harbour Town, but he has a second. He has a playoff loss there. And he has Sawgrass. And then Colonial is the other one as a part of that mix. You can even put Amex into it as well if you really wanted to, where Siwoo does have a win. So this is all coming around for him. These are the types of tournaments where Siwoo plays really well, where you don't need a ton of distance off the tee. And if he does spike one of these off the tee putting and chipping rounds, and it is a little bit windy, and we get more of this 0.6 gain strokes putting, maybe he can contend for a victory in a tournament like that. More on the modeling and the key stats that we need to look at. I might amend this one a little bit. We'll go to Manage Models on fantasynational.com. Do want to let everyone know Omaha Steaks is sponsoring the show as of tomorrow, so get your Father's Day gifts in now with Omaha Steaks, code Mayo. Get you a big discount over there. There'll be more details come Monday as they become the official sponsor of Father's Day month on the Pat Mayo Experience, but just want to let you know that's happening. I get them for my dad every year now. And I get them for Cam, too, who weirdly is very much closer to my age, but kind of feels like my older brother in a weird way. And dude loves steaks, so, gotta get Cam his steaks in. He's looking thin and trim these days, and, he needs that protein to really get everything going. So omahasteaks.com, code Mayo. Going to help you out over there, all right? Help us out by helping out our friends, our sponsors at omahasteaks.com. All right, so I clicked on the Colonial, and then I just refreshed the page on Fantasy National so I can get it to load itself in. And then we go to past, let's say, 12 rounds. And instead of the strokes gain model, in the strokes gain model, which I kind of default to every single time, you can see my weightings here on the screen. I just kind of weight all 4 of them together. That Scheffler, Denny, Rye, Siwoo, Straka, Bhatia, Lauer, Mitchell, S.H. Kim, Ben Griffin, Ryan Moore, Lucas Glover, Dietrich, Lashley, Putnam, Ben Martin, Max Homa, Adam Scott, Chan Kim, Chris Kirk. That's the top 20. But I want to look at the Colonial. Pretty good. Well, that's always good news. And we'll see what we have in here in terms of the modeling right now. What do we got? Strokes gained approach, 30%. Fairways gained, 10%. Off the tee, 5%. So a lean towards fairways as a bigger part of off the tee than distance. Par 4s overall, 10%. Par 5s, 5%. Sand saves, 5. Proximity, 100 to 125 yards, 7%. Opportunities gained, 5%. Putting, 5 to 10 feet, 5%. 10 to 15 feet, 5%. Proximity, 150 to 175. So what I'm going to do is get rid of 100 to 125. I'm going to throw that back in at the bottom. 100 to 125 proximity. Where are we at for proximity? At the very bottom, 100 to 125. And then we just kept seeing that 200 plus stuck out. So I'm going to get rid of the bigger bucket of the of 150 to 175, where the majority of shots, not majority, the plurality of shots come from on approaches, just to find in my research that these 200 plus proximity guys were the ones who were really doing well. And I can probably dial down strokes gain approach a little bit from 30 to 25% to allow for a little bit more balance here and try to chop away at what we want to see from the players over the past 12 rounds. So past 12 rounds proximity from 200 yards plus. Spawn, Kevin Yu, Michael Block, Ryan Moore, Patrick Fishburne. So a lot of jabronis. When we do the longer term for that, we'll see. We'll see who matches up the best here. Spawn, who's won in Texas before. I think he won Houston or Valero, one of the two. But, great wedge player, great from beyond 200 yards, as is Smotherman. Patton Kazire fits that mold. Max Homa fits that mold really well. I'm going to throw in the 75 to 150 as well, just to take a look at that to see if there's anyone who rates out really well in all three of those. And you probably want to have a longer sample size than 12 rounds looking at proximity ranges, just so because certain courses might be, you could hit it from 175 to an elevated green or down a hill, that you get out some of the variance the longer the sample that you go into. So the holes, even if they're a little bit different, hopefully it smooths out that variance just a little bit. But what I'd be wanting to see is just guys that are good at all three of those categories. Like Ryan Moore, Lucas Glover, they all kind of pop up. But overall in the modeling, Scotty's number one. Scotty doesn't know how to be number one. He doesn't know what Fiona and me are doing in his car every Sunday. He also doesn't know how to be number one. Although, I guess his car's probably in the impound lot. You could probably get away with doing some stuff in Scotty's car at the moment. Scotty, Glover, Moore, Rye, Ben Martin, Keith Mitchell, Lauer, Bez. This theoretically should be an awesome Bez course. Maybe Bez needs to go on. Who's gaining strokes putting? It's basically what we're looking at here. It's Bez. Bez is gaining a ton putting coming in. So he fits that criteria of gaining a bunch on the greens. So does Morikawa, by the way. Morikawa's putting has been electric over the past month or so. He's finally hitting his irons well. So gained at the Masters, gained the second most at the Masters, 3.3 at Heritage, 3 at Wells Fargo. I think he's currently gaining 5 at the PGA Championship through 2 rounds. And he's actually gaining with his approaches and off the tee as well. He's just having a great week, obviously. But it might be time for Morikawa, even if he ends up winning the PGA Championship. Pulls a Scotty, goes win-win, beating Scotty twice. Who knows? Hoagie is number 15. Hubbard is up there as well. Bhatia, Spawn, Griffin, Matty Schmidt. How's Bhatia doing on the green since he won? Oh, the putting has been really good for Bhatia as well. Terrible at the Wells Fargo overall. Missed the cut at the PGA Championship. But you can see the smaller birdie-style courses. This one's a bit more difficult, but we're not really concerned about around the green that much. What we want to have is great iron play, and we want to have great putting. And that's sort of Bhatia's wheelhouse. He had a nice run through Texas earlier. 11th and 1st in his 2 Texas starts so far this season. So got to keep Bhatia on the radar as well. The other thing we're going to do is go to the rolling model. So take the rolling model, and we're going to go to Colonial and try to see some guys over different styles or different time periods of how they're going to rate out with the key stats that we're looking at right now. We'll flip back over to proximity in a second to see how that goes. So in the overall model, you can see when we pull it up, everything's weighted. I like to build a pyramid with this basically. So we go 4, 8, and we want 12, 24, and then a little less on 50, and then a little less on 100. So 4, we want to weight it in because it was the last time anyone played with weighted stats, but really it's 4 rounds. It could be anything. And we don't want to necessarily go back 100 rounds, 2.5 years ago. So what we're really going to put the emphasis on is 12, 15, and 50 as a part of the rolling model, and we'll update that and see if it gives us slightly different results. So Scotty, Rye, but Rye can't putt, so that's a problem. Neither can Glover, neither can Moore, neither can Siwoo, neither can Mitchell. Hoagie can putt. He's like Yan when it comes to cooking. Yan can cook, Hoagie can putt. Hoagie can't chip is the real issue. So Hoagie is gaining strokes on the green at the PGA Championship right now, would actually put him in the Griot and Kokrak sweet spot of gaining on 5 of his past 6 coming in. The only one where he did not do well was the Byron Nelson. We take a look back at his history. It hasn't been good at this course, but it wasn't good at the Players Championship either. Or where the hell was it when he made the run? It was one of those courses where he was just horrible. And he didn't end up with a great result at the Players. Obviously, he ended up coming T54, but that was all really one horrible, horrible round. Other than that, he had played quite well throughout the course of the week. But you can see the spike approach is back this week at the PGA Championship at Valhalla. He's gained over 2 strokes per round through the first 2. Ditto with putting. The driving's been okay. The chipping has been not bad, which is all you need from him. Decent driving, great on approach, great putting. He can do that. You can see the different times this year he's already done that. If we can just get that again at this course, we're going to be good to go with old Hollywood Hoagie. So he rates in number 7, Morikawa, Bez. So short list, Bez, because I'm not going to bet Scheffler, so what else are we going to do here? Bez, Hoagie are 2, Bhatia, depending on what his odds are coming in. He's a bit young for the average style of winner at this course. I mean, even Mark Hubbard, hell, he's inside the top 20 here. He's ahead of Homa. Berger is starting to trend back in the proper direction. Again, a lot of that is weighted towards what he had done 2 years ago. But let's take a look at what he has done recently. He played well in Myrtle Beach too. Played pretty well at Byron Nelson. Maybe he is starting to get it back just un petit peu. That would be very nice to see from him. Hovland, 23rd. Yeah, there's not a lot of big names here. So let's go to putting. We can take a look at bent putting. But I don't think it really makes that much of a difference because we haven't been seeing that much bent on the PGA Tour so far. So far in the last little bit. So let's go back to, let's just wipe everything off. Just click back on Fantasy National if you ever want to reset your filters. That's the easiest way to go do it. And we'll go strokes gained past 24 rounds, but we'll change that to putting to see who we have putting-wise coming in to see if they're gaining on the greens. So McCarthy, S.H. Kim, there's Bez near the top. So we liked Bez. Harris English is another one. Let's see how he's doing. He ended up making the cut. He was 7 under after 2 rounds at the PGA Championship. It's been a bit of a struggle, but you see the putting, quite good. This is, he kind of fits every criteria here. He's playing pretty well this season. He can, he doesn't really gain a ton off the tee, or he can gain around the greens, but he gains on the greens when he plays well with his approaches. He can gain with his approaches. He's a bit older. That we like to see. Has played some of these other shorter courses really well in the past. How has he played here? 12th a year ago, 2nd in 2016, 5th in 2012. We're going back 12 years. He's the right age, too, to pull a Kisner at this event. So maybe Harris English we can throw on there. Obviously, all of this is going to be dictated by the odds that people come in with. But I do like to see guys who can putt pretty well coming in. Who else do we got here? Billy Ho is someone who's won in Texas in the past. Take a look at him. And, all right, so let's see. Colin Morikawa would fit the criteria. We got Daniel Hauser-Berger. Thomas Dietrich. Dietrich's putting's out of this world. He's going to come in with good form regardless. He's in 3rd place at the PGA Championship at the moment. Billy Ho comes in gaining. He got his winning Corrales as well. Bo Hostler, beautiful Bo. He's always gaining on the greens. I don't think he hits enough approach as well to really consider him, so we'll chuck him out. Other guys, Harmon. This could be a really good Brian Harmon course too. As much as I dislike Brian Harmon, he's played Valspar well in the past. He's played Pete Dye courses well. Shorter courses are kind of his bag, baby. So, yeah, maybe him. McNeely loves to putt, loves small greens. Could be another time for him. How has his putting been? I assume amazing. The fact that he's not number 1 is frankly shocking. Oh, he's had 2 bad tournaments in a row on the green after just dominating with the putter before that. So that's the way that's looking for putting. Let's take a look at the proximity splits. It's going to be Scotty. But outside of Scotty, who else could it potentially be right now? Proximity gained over the past 24 rounds. We're looking at proximity the best, Scotty Scheffler. Yeah, he's top 10 in... we're going in descending order here. Everything inside 150, he's top 10, and he's just slightly outside 175 to 200. But he hits them all so goddamn far, that doesn't really matter to him of doing it that way. So who are some of the best 200 to 200 plus and 175 to 200? We see Finau is really excellent from that range. Aaron Rye is really good from both those ranges. Ryan Moore, Keegan Bradley. Ben Martin's okay from both, so is Martin Laird. Andrew Novak is pretty good there. He's looking pretty good there. He's Coach Z from Homestar Runner. Harmon is pretty good at it's funny, over the past 24 rounds, the farther that you get away from the hole, the better Brian Harmon is. Matty Schmidt plays short courses and Pete Dye courses really well. This is not a Pete Dye course, but guys that play well at Pete Dye courses have historically played really well at Colonial, so keep that in mind. So maybe he is one to look at. Rates out well from these longer ranges. And if we just sort by 100 to 125, see who the best is. Bez, Hoagie, Scheffler. Okay, they're easy game. They're your winners right there. One of those three. Probably your three favorites in the tournament. You'll have, if we guess the odds, you got Scotty at plus 100, Hoagie at plus 200, Bez at plus 300. I assume this is if Raza's making the odds on everything, but that's the way that I'd be looking for everything this week. The glove actually rates out really well too, so maybe I'll give Glover another look a little bit deeper. I know that he ended up making the weekend at the PGA Championship. I assume it's not off the back of his putter because the guy never putts well, except for those few times that he did and won back-to-back events. But the tee to green's been really good for him over the past 2 months. I mean, basically all year has it been pretty good for him. And this is kind of the range where he could win. I don't love the putting splits at all, but winning at Wyndham does kind of trigger something in my mind that, hey, maybe this is another spot to look at Lucas Glover with how good he can be trying to pin seek at some of these tournaments. Okay, it's time to guess the odds for the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial CC. Scotty Scheffler remains in the field for the moment, so obviously he is going to be the favorite, and I'm doing this before the conclusion of the PGA Championship, so I have no idea who has played well on Sunday, who has won, who has blown up, and obviously that will affect all the odds. The way that I see it, we're probably going to get Scotty at plus 275 to open. Again, I really don't think he's going to end up playing in this tournament, depending on what the legal issues end up going. If he has to be at an arraignment in Louisville on Tuesday, then he's probably not going to be playing in the Charles Schwab Challenge. Although the guy could go from jail to the golf course and shoot 5 under, so who the hell knows? He might just show up like day of, fly in that morning, and end up shooting 54 in the first round or something. But plus 275 is where I'm going to say it. Then you get to the next tier. I think there are 4 guys in this next tier. Morikawa, Hovland, Homa, and Spieth. Spieth does not deserve to be in this same tier of the betting odds as those 3 guys, but it's Texas for one thing. It's a shorter course, and it's Jordan fucking Spieth. He's going to end up being up there. So I can see those guys being 12, 14, 16. Finau might even be on this tier as well if he finishes good enough at the PGA Championship to maybe make him a 20. But those are the 5. Morikawa, Hovland, Homa, Spieth, and Tony Finau. The next tier down are sort of the short hitters, older players, that kind of thing. You have Harman, Sungjae, Tom Kim, Keegan Bradley, Min Woo, Lee, Si Woo, Kim, and Sepp Straka. I think that those 7 will be on their own mini tier, anywhere between as high as 25, as low as 45, predominantly being in that 35 to 1 range. The next tier after that, Denny, Akshay, Jagger, Glover, Adam Scott, and Harris English. 40 to 55, that sort of range. Maybe one sneaks into 65 because the strength of this field is a little bit better. And then we go into Højgaard, Dietrich, Kirk, Griot, Hoagie, Bez, JT Poston, Ricky Fowler. They could be priced anywhere from 50 to 1 to 90 to 1, depending on the book that we're looking at. And for bets so far that I like, obviously not knowing what the numbers, but anticipating what those numbers are going to be, Hoagie and Bez really did leap out when we did the walkthrough of the certain types of guys that win at this tournament, for one thing, and the guys that can win at good numbers. You know, Kevin Na ends up winning this tournament at 80 to 1. Jason Kokrak hits at 75 to 1. Emiliano Grillo, 75 to 1 a year ago. There have been bigger names at higher odds who have won, or lower odds who have won, but we've really seen that next class of player really excel at Colonial. And this tournament has been contested with some pretty good names in it. You don't usually get the very top of the top. But Scotty has played this almost every single year. We saw Burns end up winning it. We do have that Valspar connection that I talked about as we went through it, along with some of the Pete Dye and shorter Bermuda courses, despite this being bent grass greens. That's the way that I would see it this week. Use code Mayo at UnderdogFantasy.com to help out the show and get a deposit bonus of $250 and FantasyNational.com/Mayo to get it all done, all right? Smash a like, share around the show while you're here. I'll be back with a recap of the PGA Championship with Feinberg and a full breakdown of the betting board at Colonial Monday morning. So I'll see you there, all right? I'm Pat Mayo. See you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!